On this episode of the Voices of Boyle, I sat down with Reece Shanley, a driven young business-orientated man who's creating his own life path. We dive into his journey from being an energetic kid growing up to his experiences travelling solo in Thailand, as well as the lessons learned through the challenges like the COVID lockdowns. Reece talks openly about the value of hard work, mental clarity, and staying adaptable in a rapidly changing world. So if you're looking for some inspiration from someone blending business savvy with real-world grit and self-awareness, this episode is a must-listen. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favour and share it on your socials. Whether it's a story, a post, or a quick message to a friend, it helps more people from or interested in Boyle to discover the podcast. Thanks very much, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Reece, welcome to the Voices of Boyle. How are you?
Good, Carl. How are you keeping?
I'm good. Glad to have you on. It's always nice to have a younger generation on it to keep it interesting. So, Reece, what year were you born in?
I was born in 2001.
2001. And give us a kind of little snapshot of your earliest memories growing up.
Well, obviously, I was born in Patrick Street, Boyle, so I grew up kind of living there. I was never really out too much until, we'll say, my teenage years. Was mostly spent in the house with, obviously, my mum, my dad, and my brother. Was always very an energetic child anyway, so I was always kind of doing something. I was never stuck inside, or
rolling around in the mud, as they say.
Rolling around the mud, climbing trees, falling, breaking bones.
You wouldn't be unlike your dad then,
no,
in that respect.
I got the energy from somewhere, all right.
Because I went to school with your dad. We're in the same class.
Yeah, he does speak about you.
So, yeah, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree in that respect,
No.
I'd say. So tell us, so growing up in Boyle you were born in 2001.
Born in 2001, yeah.
So then those mid to late 2000 years, what kind of memories stick out for you?
Well, at that time, I suppose, it was obviously primary school. I didn't go to Boyle primary school. Obviously, I said I was a very energetic child, so I think my parents decided it was better if I got a closer eye kept on me. So they sent me out to Grange National School, which I actually have great memories of. It was a very, tight-knit kind of community.
Yeah, and a smaller little school as well.
Smaller little school. Like we had one of the biggest classes in it, a total number of six. Six in the whole class. So now, whether or not the close eye calmed me down any bit at all during my younger years, I don't know, but we were always out playing.
And who's the principal back in those days?
The principal, when I was there, we'll say there was only ever two teachers in the school. You had Miss Moran at the time, who would have done junior infants to second class, and then there was only two rooms really, and then the other room, which would have been third to sixth, and it was Miss Layden for the majority of the time I was there anyway.
Okay.
And then she retired, we'll say, for my last 2 years there, from fifth to sixth. And she was there while she's seen a lot of things. It was a small school, but it was wild enough at the time, in fairness.
And it hasn't got any bigger, has it?
No,
it's still kind of retained.
Still the same. There was 36, I think, in the school total when I was there. So I wouldn't say it's too much bigger now.
So that was national school,
national school,
primary?
Or primary school.
Primary school, yeah, okay. And did you go to St. Mary's or the Abbey Community College?
Went to the Abbey Community College then.
Sorry, yeah.
After that, yeah.
St. Mary's, my generation. I'm giving my age away there.
You're all right.
But so what was that like then, schooling in Abbey Community College?
It was. I was never really, suppose, one for school, we'll say. The sitting down for 2 hours in a classroom with the energy I had as a young fella didn't really go hand in hand, we'll say.
Yeah.
And obviously it was difficult at the time because you never really heard too much of other people doing anything else other than, going to college or
And did you have any kind of ambitions about going to college, or did you think that wasn't for you?
I did at the time. It was only really that was kind of shown to you. You kind of was told, obviously do well in your leaving cert and find something that you're interested in. At the time, for me, I was very kind of fascinated with the human body. You know, I was learning a lot about kind of the gym and working out, and so I was going to become a physiotherapist. Was the time.
That was the kind
That
of
was the
right.
the notion at the time, anyway. But just there was never really anything, maybe except for biology, that kind of kept me focused on that. So I could pay attention in that class and maybe a bit in maths, but everything else was always.
So that's where you had a bit of interest in.
That was
those.
where I had a bit of interest. Yeah, I always kind of had an interest for, we'll say, you know, us humans in general, like, you know, the human mind, the human body, just something that interests me, because obviously we're all human. Like, if you're not, it's interesting to learn about yourself and
of
the
course,
other people that are sharing the planet with you, obviously.
And with Abbey Community College, then, Reece, was there, obviously it was a combination male and females. In my day, it was just St. Mary's College, so we didn't have that amalgamation, if you like.
Yeah.
So you came into that, so it wasn't a big deal. You know,
in fairness, yeah, that was a help.
Yeah.
You know, Grange was mixed. Now there was only one girl in my class until, we'll say, the last 2 years where another 2 girls joined in. But, you know, I always liked Grange in the sense that it was always one big classroom. You know, it wasn't just your class, we'll say, which would have been all boys in Boyle or all girls in Boyle. It was mixed, and you'd have the younger classes, or you'd have to deal with the older classes when you first joined in. So everyone was always you'd help each other out, in a sense. Like, you'd communicate with all levels.
And then did you find, you said your class in Grange in primary was, you went from a class of 6, right? And then you're going into Abbey Community College, where you're probably 20 plus.
I think that's where a big switch of my kind of, it was something I wasn't expecting it, you know. So I kind of had that, I wouldn't say something to prove in a way, but, you know, it was new to me, and I kind of didn't know.
Did you like it, or?
I did, in fairness. Like, I like to think I got on with everyone at the school, in fairness.
Because, you know, the way some people can shy away when they're just a few people in a class, and then they go into a bigger, it's almost like they're, you know, you can have a fear of too many people in that environment, but that wasn't the case for you.
No, well, I suppose, like, especially being so full of energy in that, like, my way of kind of coping with the awkwardness, or maybe the anxiety, I suppose, of having it all, was to talk or to be the class clown, and I suppose act a bit of a prick in the classroom. You know, it's kind of the best way I can put it. Like, I'm sure the teachers would have agreed with me that had me at the time. That's the best way of explaining it. But
and then, so how do you think Boyle has changed in your teenage years, your school years? Like, you know, when did you finish school then? What year?
I finished school in 2018, would have been my leaving cert.
18, right.
Yeah,
okay. So then Boyle obviously has changed a bit since then, but even from, you know, the early 2010s, have you seen a big change in Boyle?
Yeah, well, it's gotten quieter, in fairness. We'll say with even like the teenage years. At my time, you know, you would have had teenage discos like Cartown and stuff like that everyone would have kind of went to at the school. And I know I think there's a new one now in Carrick, Hush or something, that I do see a couple of young family members of mine might be going to, or that. But it's definitely gotten quieter. You know, when you think about something as simple as Halloween, like, if you're in 2010 in Boyle, or even, you know, the noughties, as I like to call it, the 90s, Halloween was always kind of a hectic.
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal. Probably not the best of things going on. A lot of mischievous activities from young fellas all around. And now, obviously, it's a good thing that it's changed, but that's kind of the shift I've seen. I don't know if it's more to do with people just being inside more. And
so do you think it's a kind of a shift in a traditional sense, that we're losing some of our traditions that, you know, no more than your parents would have, and in my youth, Halloween was such a big deal. And we'd spend weeks, as I was only saying to someone there the other day, spend weeks, you know, prepping penny bangers and stuff like this now, you know. Now that doesn't really happen.
No.
So we're losing, so is that what you're kind of referring to, in that we're losing some kind of traditional...
In a sense, I suppose, yeah. They like to say that Halloween originated in in Ireland, wasn't it? They like to
Did
say
up
that
in
up in Tulsk or something. Yeah.
what's it called? Cormac or Rathcrohan. Sorry,
Mm.
Rathcrohan. Yeah.
So I suppose in that sense, yeah, it is. I don't know what it's down to be honest. I kind of would say it's down to everyone being more glued into their phones now than they are actually going out and communicating.
And I want to get into that later on as well, about the effects of maybe social media, because I always think it's so interesting to hear your generation's perspective on this.
Yeah.
Because it's going to, when you're my age and, you know, you're in your 40s or whatever, you're going to be looking back 20 years and how will things have changed?
Especially with the likes of AI and all that
massive.
now. It's going to be...
It's so huge. So it's always interesting, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, of course.
So any particular standout memory of your youth, your youth in Boyle? Is there anything that you remember, you look back on fondly and says, oh, I remember such and such a day, or I went such and such a place? Is there something that stands out?
I always remember the school, in fairness, Abbey Community College. We were always kind of, the whole year was close together, in fairness, you know. Everyone got on. You obviously had your separate groups, you know, but everyone had kind of mingled together once they were together. You'd walk into the school, you nearly want to be in there 15 minutes early so that you could stand up at the radiator, talk absolute shite for 15 minutes beforehand, and then you'd be going into class, especially me. I'd be so ramped up then from all the, you know, the crack you'd be having with the lads beforehand, talking to each other. Probably made it more difficult for me to concentrate during the class. There are subtle little things like that, you know, just them little moments of just, because them things kind of disappear as you get older, you know, friends go away,
They do.
You don't see each other as much, you're busy, they move away.
Life.
Yeah. Kind of, which is, it's part of growing up, you know, you have to...
It is.
To deal with it, in fairness. And
the only good thing, I suppose, is that you have the ability to stay in contact, and pretty close contact these days with your friends through social media and that.
Yeah, of course.
That wasn't the case prior to that, but
no, you're wondering where he's gone. You haven't seen him in 10 years, and
but that's it. I've not seen or chatted to some of my classmates from when I finished in '96. So I mean, that's just the way it was. There was no such thing as internet, and really, you know, in that respect, for keeping in contact. So leaving Sir came and went. And then I remember when I first kind of chatted to you, you were telling me you'd like to go to Thailand, and you were asking me for my advice, because I've been there a few times.
Been there, wrote the book, made the podcast on
it. Going back again in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And so you went off to Thailand. Did you go on your own?
I did, yeah.
Now, so tell us, like, okay, so that's great. I think that shows a different kind of, especially even at your age, to just want to go. I presumed you asked a couple of friends, no one wanted to go, and you says, I'm going anyway.
Yeah, pretty much so.
Right.
No, this was kind of, when did I go to Thailand? I think it was about
22, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was. Just after COVID.
Literally just after COVID, yeah, when that kind of all died down. And I don't know, it was an experience that I needed to go out by myself. You know, you're living at home, you're living with your mum, you're living with your dad. Mammy's there washing your clothes for you, you know, and everything's nice and handy. And you need a bit of difficulty to get out of the comfort zone. Yeah. Like even just like sitting here having this.
And culture-wise as well.
And culture-wise, you obviously, like, everyone in Ireland is kind of a set mindset. It's kind of not a bad mindset, but, you know, it's miserable weather. People get a bit of dopamine from giving out, you know. So you kind of go over to Thailand, a bit of itching. And, you know, they go over to Thailand, the land of the smiles, as they like to call it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place. I highly recommend it.
Where did you visit over there?
I wanted to do everywhere.
And how long had you? A month, or was it?
I went over for a month. So you got I think it was 31-day visa at the time. Right, yeah. I think it's up to 45 now, though.
It's up to 60.
Is it up to 60?
And you can renew by 30 in the country, so you can really, in theory, get 90 days before you have to...
A disclaimer, I'll be disappearing for 3 months. Where did I go? I didn't want to do... I'm not really a very touristy person in the sense, you know, I don't want to go to the Instagram famous places that everyone likes to parade around. But I tried to go everywhere. So I went to Bangkok. Didn't just go to, we'll say, the famous Bangla Road where all the backpackers go. And I went kind of around the city for a while. Didn't enjoy it too much. It was a bit too much for me, in fairness. It's
concrete jungle.
It
is massive.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Even
it's not for everyone at all.
Something as simple as crossing the road over there. You get yourself killed.
Yeah.
There's just scooters and cars and thousands of them. and then all the other madness that comes with it out there as well. So I went to Bangkok for 3 days, and then I flew up to Chiang Mai. And at the time still, I was kind of still just getting my feet around. I kind of just met a couple of people on my last day in Bangkok that I kind of met up with again in Chiang Mai. And I think I was up there for 3 days as well. I kind of had this itinerary that I was going to do here for 3 days, 4 days, here for 3 days, 4 days, and kind of try and do them all in 3 or 4 days. But then I got a scooter in Chiang Mai and I drove to Pai, which is up north, up. I don't know what the exact number. It's a crazy mountain.
There's 1,700 and I think it's 1,736 bends in the road.
And you're going up a mountain.
It's
a very big mountain. Yeah. I remember because I had the shorts on, the shirt on. Thought I was Bruce Wayne, getting on the scooter at the bottom of the mountain.
Sun on the back.
Get up to the top of it then, and it goes from 30 degrees to 6 degrees, and you are freezing your balls off.
Yeah, exactly.
You could get me back down this mountain quick. So I'd done that, and I landed in Pai, and I'll be honest, I loved Pai. Very laid back. No
hippie vibe.
It is a hippie vibe. In fairness,
it's a really nice place though.
It's because there's no, like in Chiang Mai, you have your McDonald's and you have all these things and cars, and you go to Pai then, and it's just like a quiet little village, and it's bombarded with backpackers. Like when I was there, it must have been 70% backpackers from all over the world and 30% locals. It was just, you'd walk down the streets, you'd see people from all over the world. Mostly in my time there was English, Dutch, a couple of Polish and Russian and that as well. And everyone, German, French, you're meeting everyone over there.
Now it's full of Russian.
Is it full of Russian now, is it?
Full of Russians, yeah. A lot of Russians.
It was, well, at the time I was there, I think they legalised marijuana only a month.
That's right. And they've since changed that.
Have they changed that, have they?
When we were there year before last, you couldn't go anywhere, but you'd smell the weed everywhere. And then last year when we were back, gone.
Yeah, I'd say because
they made a lot of money, the government, on it. And I think they realised that it's not really what the road they want to go down.
I can imagine that because it must have been like back in the Viking times. There was shiploads of people from the Netherlands coming over to Thailand when I was there. It was like 50% of the people that were there were Dutch when I was there at the time.
So how many days did you stay in Pai?
I was supposed to stay in Pai for 2 to 3 days. Ended up staying for 7 or 8. I met kind of a nice little crew over there. We kind of
brilliant
done our thing. You're supposed to have the scooter license over there. I never done that. I kind of got fined, had to bribe a little officer over in Chiang Mai at the time, but then when I went to Pai,
there's no police.
There's absolutely nothing up there. It's the most calmest, quietest place in all of Thailand.
Yeah,
and
it's just such a recluse up there. I know a friend of mine. He was he moved to Thailand and we were in Chiang Mai at the time, living there in 2014, and he was going up to Pai for 3 days with a couple of his friends, kind of like what your idea. He stayed 2 years.
Yeah,
2 years, because he was doing an online business, so he actually based himself. He loved it there, and then he moved on. But there
wouldn't be too many internet cafes that up there, though. I suppose he was just doing it in his B&B.
No, it was more kind of like just there wasn't any internet cafes, but it was cafes.
Yeah,
so you just go up there, do and he had a little. At the time, it was renting a place. I don't know, was it Airbnb or not? But but as you said, it was just such a crazy cool spot. So after Pai, then, Reece, where did you go to next?
What I done after Pai was I went back to Chiang Mai, obviously, to get a plane down to Phuket, which is, I suppose, one of the touristy spots. In fairness, the main area, Bangla Road, or I can't think of the actual name of the town itself, where Bangla Road is. It's just Phuket, is it?
Yeah, Bangla Road is in Phuket.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the walking street.
Yeah,
it's mayhem.
It's crazy. It's kind of like Bangkok, but on a beach.
Yeah,
is pretty much what it is. In fairness, and I stayed there for 3 days. I was supposed to go to the likes of the Phi Phi Islands and Krabi and that. But again, kind of met up with a couple of people, and I was kind of spending my time with them, kind of doing the activities that you do, sightseeing and drinking.
Yeah, of course.
Kind of like I tried to pretend like I didn't. I went over there telling people that I was going over for a peaceful retreat and, just to get away. And I suppose the word people like to say is find themselves, but I found myself in a lot of buckets of
buckets of
what's the name of that?
the Thai buckets of vodka and
stop.
whiskey or something, isn't
What's that? There's a really strong one you can get. It has about 3 or 4 different. I can't think of the name, but it is it's a cocktail. You can get it everywhere. Like, but oh man,
you had enough of them anyway.
Oh, sure. You only needed 2 or 3. You were 2, and you'd be absolutely looming for the night.
Did you do a full moon?
The mistake I made, and I'm wondering why my flights were so cheap at the time. I think I flew in on the day of the full moon and had to fly back out on the day of the full moon. So I actually missed that. And it was horrible coming to the end of my experience because the last week, so I'll say after I was in Phuket for the 3 days, I went to the islands. So Koh Samui and Koh Tao. I don't think I went to Koh Phangan. That's where the full moon.
Koh Tao you went to?
No, sorry.
Koh Tao is
that's above Koh Samui, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But have you ever looked into it?
No.
Look into it.
So
it's known as Murder Island.
Is it?
Look it up. Anyone that's listening,
I was very relaxed and calm by the time I was in Koh Tao. I was walking around
the amount of murders on that small little island, because it's a small island.
It is a very small island, yeah.
There's tons of documentaries. I've watched a load of them, and it's kind of crazy when you think of such a small condensed island and the amount of murders that has happened, specifically for backpackers. That's not to put people off now.
No,
because it can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, for the size of the island and the amount of murders that have happened over there and disappearances and weird stuff, it's really.
In fairness, I never even I'd like to think I'd catch the vibe of areas. That's why I didn't like Phuket or Bangkok too much, because you could sense that there was, kind of something going on.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah.
But in fairness.
Probably put people off now here when we're talking like this about
Thailand. No, go to Koh Tao, don't.
Thailand is one of the safest places.
It is. It genuinely is.
It really is. It's just an amazing country.
Like I'd walk, well, I suppose not in Boyle now, but if I was in another city in Ireland, like Dublin or Limerick or Longford, I'd feel safer walking around Thailand at night time than I would any of them other places. But yeah, in fairness, I loved Koh Tao. That was probably one of my. I'd say I went, from where I was anyway, I'd probably go Pai, Koh Tao, Koh Samui, and then Phuket and Bangkok.
You didn't go to Koh Phangan then, obviously.
I didn't know, and that was the problem I had. Last week I was there. It's the only question I ever got asked.
Yeah.
You going to the full moon?
Yeah.
You going to the full moon?
It is a cool island. I was at a full moon, but it's it is crazy and all that, but it's cool to experience.
Yeah, I know.
It's one of those things, if you're there, you do kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be rushing back, but I did it. But I
take it off the list.
Absolutely, everyone should, if you're there. And
see, that's what I done. I skipped, we'll say, Krabi and the Fifi Islands when I was there, but in my head was saying to myself, it's an excuse to come back.
Exactly.
That's why you have to come back. If anyone asks, when I was there the last time, I never got the chance to make up excuses for myself to send myself back over there.
So you spent a month there.
Spent a month there.
And if you had to describe Thailand or that month in one word, then
absolutely amazing.
One word, I said.
All right. Sorry. Amazing. So we'll go with amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's got everything that you could need. Like, people always ask us what's our favorite country, and all the countries we've been to, it's always Thailand, because you get the culture, you get the people, the food, you have beaches, mountains.
You have everything.
You have everything. Cost of living, it's pretty amazing.
Well, like, in fairness, I went to Thailand for the month, and I think the year before that, we got a cheap holiday, me and two of the lads, where we went to Lanzarote for a week. I spent more money in Lanzarote in the week than I did in the month in Thailand. And I genuinely would say, if you were to put just the money I spent on food and drink in Lanzarote for the week, probably comes close to the money I spent in Thailand with accommodation, food, drink, flights, buses.
That's common though. It's
crazy.
Though. You can really, it's really affordable out there.
It's
now you can go as high end as you want as well. Like, they cater for everyone. They really do. But unfortunately, then the floor is rising on that now. It's with inflation, global inflation and all that. But One place that hasn't is Vietnam.
It's very much on my bucket list of places to go. I seen Corey, he's done 2 podcasts with you. Yeah, he's just
Corey's
gone over.
there at the moment. Yeah. I was telling Corey and Miko they should check it out because, and they're actually gone to Da Nang where we were last year, based for a couple of months. And yeah, well, Miko will be there in a month, but Corey's there now. Yeah, he's loving it.
I'd have really, really want to go to Vietnam. In fairness, it's I'm torn between kind of going there for a month first and then going back and doing the spots I missed in Thailand. Or
why not?
But I've even, people that I was chatting to when I was in Thailand, that's all they spoke about was how cheap Vietnam is.
Yeah.
Like, I think when I was in Thailand, it was costing me €7, we'll say, a day for a scooter. To kind of, that's a scooter I took from Chiang Mai to Pai, which Chiang Mai be kind of more of a touristy kind of built up area, so it was probably more expensive. But I remember lads telling me that they were getting them for €1 a day, €2 a day in Vietnam.
We were getting them last year for €3 a day.
Yeah.
And if you take out a longer contract on it, you probably get it down to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
which is crazy.
Absolutely.
It's like
it is. It really is.
You wouldn't get a chocolate bar here for €1.
Not at all.
You wouldn't get a Freddo.
So let's skip back a couple of years. I want to ask about your COVID experience.
Right.
COVID came along. World went crazy. How did COVID affect you? Those years of maybe, you're what age now?
I'm 24 next
right,
week.
So you were in your 20s, late.
It was 2020, so I would have been 19.
Yeah. So a very poignant time of anyone's life, right? So social life and all that. All of a sudden, that comes to a complete halt.
Yeah. So
how did COVID then affect you? Personally, Reece, what was your experience with it?
I remember at the time I was nearly looking forward to it. Now before it happened, I was working, we'll say, in building sites and that, and I was doing 40, 50 hours a week. So I was thinking, am I going to get paid to stay at home? Bring it on. 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks of a break, and then it obviously dragged out to a lot longer. But I suppose it's safe to say this now. At the time, it wouldn't have been. I didn't stay inside as much as I was told to, in fairness. We'll say a close couple of friends of mine got fishing rods. We'd go out and we'd go fishing. We'd try and stay out of the town, we'd go down Assie Lynn or down to Canal. Now obviously there was days where you're stuck inside, but between fishing and staying inside, that's all we could really do. But the social aspect of it was definitely a big thing. Like, I was never really a big drinker anyway. We were talking about the teenage years of the Halloweens and that. I think my era got a lot of that drinking out of their system at a younger age, good and bad, in fairness. But you did miss out on a lot of things. Not really a big drinker anyway.
But it was the choice, I suppose, of not being able to go to the pub with the lads, whether you were drinking or not.
Yeah.
That social aspect of it.
Oh, no, yeah, definitely.
And did your friend circle, were they kind of frustrated with the whole thing as well?
Oh, no.
Did you all kind of like say, well, look, we'll make the best of what we have?
Try and make the most. It's a perspective on everything. Is kind of everything in life, in fairness, how you look at things. But it was difficult. I even remember, I amn't vaccinated, so I didn't get the vaccine at the time. And I remember, relationships I had at the time, we try and go away. I remember we went up to Belfast. Couldn't get in anywhere. Couldn't, you could walk the street. That was it. If we wanted to eat, go back to your hotel room, order a Just Eat or an Uber Eats or whatever it was at the time, and sit in the room and eat. There was no going out for meals or going out for a drink or anything like that. It was funny. It's funny looking back. It's funny looking back. But at the time, you were looked at like,
oh yeah.
What? Who do you think you are not getting the vaccine? Like, and all this stuff. Literally, yeah. So that but it shows. It was a good, it really opened my eyes to how much control the fear that the government can put on people can really do. Like, if they can lock you inside your house for, I suppose it was close to 2 years, wasn't it?
It was.
Kind of made me kind of step out a little bit more and realise, that, you know, you're in control of your own life.
And you only get one.
Mm. And I suppose it was crazy at the time.
And if you had to pick one memory that'll stay with you for the rest of your life from the COVID period, Reece, what would that be? Is there anything that sticks out?
I remember, it's probably not a good memory or a good time. I remember we decided, it was probably a couple of weeks into it. And at this time now, it was the first cup to start of it. So, you know, we all did stay inside, you know, 3 or 4 weeks. And we all decided one day, we said, we were all over the age at the time. So it was perfectly legal, you know. So we just get a couple of cans, a couple of bottles, and we'll go down to Asselin away from everyone. And we'll have a couple of drinks and actually enjoy ourselves. And I remember we were walking out to Felton Road with, you know, there was probably 5 or 6 of us. One fella had crate in this hand, his bag of drink in this hand. Cars driving past and stopping and shouting abuse at us. Who do you think you are? Get inside, all this stuff, you know. I didn't pass too much eating it. You know, I kind of just was thinking, oh shit, don't let them see me, you know, hide my face and try and keep walking. But I always remember that. People stopping, or even the people that didn't stop driving past, and the dirty looks they'd be giving you, you know. And that's something I'll always remember of it.
Crazy time.
Oh, it's crazy, but like it's the world we live in fairness, you know. You can't, people were feared, obviously, you know, when you bring family into it and people are worried about their families. I understand it.
Fear is a very, very
it's very powerful
it's easy to control people with fear.
Yeah. Fear mongering.
Whether good or bad. You know, fear is a very strong motivator for people.
And it's used for a lot of things, in fairness.
It is.
Especially by the bigger, more advanced companies that, you know, like even like marketing and sales. A massive aspect of marketing and sales is psychology.
It is, and fear of missing out on something.
Fear and missing out.
If you don't get that deal.
Yeah. This is going in 2 hours.
So that's a good little segue into kind of business and, you know, marketing. Because when I remember chatting to you first, you were talking about starting up your own business.
Oh yeah, I think at the time I started the Super Soft Watch, which I'm doing now, but I was looking into say social media marketing, which is something that you and Florence obviously have a lot of experience and expertise in. So you were the man for me to talk to at the time.
Oh, I remember chatting to you about that. Yeah, down in the bazaar.
Now, in fairness, I did get into it. I did do courses on it and that, but I always, Alex Hormozy, someone I do kind of listen to a lot. In fairness, he always says, focus on one thing. You know, you can't be doing 20 different things at once. So at the time I had Super Soft Watch, and still do, and it's still going very well, thank God. It's growing every year. So I'm more focused on learn the marketing and use it to build my business. And then obviously once I gain them skills, maybe in the future, you know, I can branch off.
Exactly.
And use them to help other people.
What was the motivation, Reece, for starting up Super Soft Wash? Where did the idea come about, and what were any initial challenges that you had starting that business?
Well, I tried to start a business before that. It was casual competitions, I called it.
Oh, the raffle.
The raffles.
Was that something like we see Brendan and...
Yes, there's air competitions. Yes, yeah. Very, very similar.
Right.
And at the time for me, I think I was working 2 years on the building site at the time, so I was trying this new thing. I thought if I can make money online, this is where the notions of Thailand and that first started coming in. You know, if I can make it online, I could, you know, do it over there and live cheaply and make the same money. But the problem was for me at that, it wasn't stimulating enough for me at the time. You know, there wasn't enough friction, I guess, to keep me really indulged in it. So in fairness, I gave up on it. I done 2 raffles, 2 people won, I broke even. And then I went on a holiday, didn't post, and I kind of just fizzled out. And I always knew that business was something I wanted to get into. Never fully knew it, but gradually kind of got into it. And then I started door-to-door sales.
Did you?
I did. I knew. I always remember, I think it's Grant Cardone or someone used to always say, you know, sales, marketing, psychology, something else. So if you can learn to sell, you can kind of do any business, in fairness.
It transcends everything.
So obviously I grew up working in Lockheed at the boats I started working when I was 14 till I think I was there till I was 17. So I was chatting to people every day, and I always kind of thought I was all right at talking. So I said, why don't I challenge myself? And my God, was that a challenge. Door-to-door sales, trying to switch people's electricities, and it was mostly people that are out of contract. You'd have to knock 100 doors a day. And
to probably get one, maybe.
Might get one. And I was doing the urban areas, which was, we'll say, like your big cities, your Longfords, your Castlebars, Athlone, all these areas. So I'd done that for 6 months, and then I started kind of, I guess, planning Super Soft Wash. It was more of an idea where I was just going to try and kind of do it on the weekends, a power washing gig here or a power washing gig there, a couple of £100. And then I started seeing a lot of people doing roof cleaning over in America.
Yeah, gutter cleaning.
Gutter cleaning and cleaning roofs. And the money in it was a lot better than power washing, obviously, because there's more risk in it. You're up on a ladder, you're scraping down moss, and so I started kind of buying the equipment while I was doing the door-to-door sales. And then once all the equipment came, and I used kind of some of the marketing that I learned from the casual competitions, so I kind of got into Facebook ads with that, trying to promote that to get to sell the tickets and that. So I branched off into that then, into Super Soft Wash. Started up. The first year, wasn't nothing spectacular. It was the only thing I was doing. It was a good year. We made money. It actually made enough money for me to go and travel Thailand, which was character building in itself. And then it was really kind of a moment in my life then after that, where I came back from Thailand. It was the winter time. I went in October, came back in November. Obviously, nobody wants to be getting power washed or anything like that from the months of November, December, January. So there was no money coming in. I was just back from probably the biggest high in my life out in Thailand, and I was sitting in the wet, cold misery of Boyle at the time. Now, I'm not saying there's anything bad about Boyle, but from coming from Thailand, it was it was quite a kick. And I started working at the job that I'd done when I left school, which was up in Dublin, in building sites and that. So I said it was 4 days a week. So I was thinking, if I can do the 4 days, Monday to Thursday, get my hours in, and then do the Friday and Saturday, running the business on the side, rather than just trying to do it, just the business, at the start anyway. That was hard work. I put in a lot of hours that year. I was travelling up to Dublin on a Monday, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, coming home 8, 9 o'clock on a Thursday, and then straight up the next morning to, go clean someone's roof or power wash their driveway and all that. So that was, it was good. I like looking back on it now, because it was showed that I could do it,
Yeah.
The 6-7 days a week constantly for a full year. And then obviously I got better at marketing. The business started getting more word of mouth of the work we were doing, and
referrals and stuff like that.
And the work was getting too much. I was, booked up for months, a month and a half, and I was good at my job in Dublin, so I ended up becoming a project manager up there. I was over the building sites. I had a couple of lads under me. I'd get handed the drawings, make sure this is done, and I was under more pressure running that side of things for somebody else than I was trying to run my business while taking all the calls while I was working, and doing all the marketing while I was working. And so then I obviously left the job and went at Super Soft Wash full time last year, we'll say around March, and luckily 4, 5, 6 days a week, every week.
And have you leveraged things? Have you taken on a few extra hands to so you can scale it out a little?
Last year I had 2 lads working with me for the full year. Now it's just the one, but obviously it's a quiet time of year anyway at the moment. I'm still very busy. And the other fella, he had to go work with his family anyway, helping things. So I understand that. But yeah, this year, with big plans, obviously.
Good.
And
what would be, in your opinion, Reece, what would be the most rewarding part about running your own business?
I was going to say the freedom, but it's a 24/7 thing. But it's the thought in yourself that, you can get up when you want, even though if you tell someone you're going to be there at 9, you're going to be there at 9 anyway. But it's the freedom for me.
You can say, if you wanted to, you could say, well, I'm going to take in June, July and August off in the summer. Block that off and do what you want.
Yeah.
And,
I couldn't do that with this business anyway. That's
the best time of year, is it? Yeah. But you could in theory.
In theory. Yeah. In theory.
Especially if you had people maybe potentially down the line running and things for you. You could take hands off on that.
In fairness, I can't give him enough credit to the young fella that I've working for me now. It's great.
Yeah.
Diamond in the rough. I worked in building sites. I've had hundreds of lads that I've worked with. I've had a handful that have worked under me. He is...
That's good to have someone like that.
Very, very good. I couldn't praise him anymore. He does fantastic work, very mannerly to the people and all that stuff.
That's important.
Well, what were we saying before that?
No, just about the most rewarding thing.
Oh, yes. So there's that. Like, in fairness, last year, I kind of, because of the year beforehand where I was doing the 6-7 days a week, last year I kind of just took the foot off the gas a little bit. So I dropped the lads to a house to have the ladders, the poles, the scrapers, the buckets and the bins to clear everything out. I could drop them off and I could go off myself, I didn't have to do the work. Now, in fairness, I kind of work all over the West and Midlands of Ireland. I could be in Galway one day, Mayo the next day, and Boyle on the third day. So I was always had to be there, close by. But I didn't have to do all the labour itself, in fairness, as much. Now, this year is different. Foot's back on the gas this year. Obviously, last year I like to think of as kind of a setting year, getting everything, getting all the systems.
Laying the
groundworks. Getting used to having lads under you and getting them to, push them on and getting them to do things right. This year now, we'll see March. I like to say March to end of October. November is my season. So, we're just building up into that now, and hopefully, ideally I get another van, I get another lad, I get another 2 lads.
Brilliant. And what areas are you covering currently? I know obviously Boyle and the surroundings, but how far have you gone?
It's like the start of this week I was in Galway.
Brilliant.
So I do a good bit of work in Galway. I don't mind travelling. If there's a chance that I have to sit at home and not work, or I have to get in the van and drive 2 hours to Galway, I'll be in Galway.
Good.
I'll leave at 7, I'll be there at 9.
Yeah.
So we'll say Galway, Mayo, Longford, Sligo, Leitrim, been in Mullingar, been as far as Kinnegad up the other side to Cavan. It doesn't bother me. Once it's in kind of, we'll say, an hour and a half of a distance either side of me,
you're okay.
I don't mind.
And what services does Super Soft Wash provide?
Well, what we do is it's roof cleaning, soft washing and power washing, we'll say, is the main categories. I like to separate the power washing, because a lot of people think you should power wash a roof, and it's probably the worst thing you could possibly do to your roof. Genuinely.
For slate, is it like making weakened slates?
It's like, if you think about it, most power washers are 3,000 to 4,000 psi.
Yeah.
You don't want to be standing up on a roof shooting all that power, and even it's just the chance of you slipping or falling is crazy. I know a lot of people use roofing ladders and that, but like, you can't be putting that much pressure on a roofing structure. Like, the water has to go somewhere, and it's going into your roof. And in fairness, what really shows me that we're doing it right is a lot of roofing companies, the owners of that roofing company, will get me to clean their roof. A lot of times. Yeah. I've done a lot of work for a lot of roofing companies. And what did they say to me, when we're having the chat about the power washing, and he says, the lads that are power washing the roofs, they're the ones that are keeping me in business.
All right.
Because they're blasting that much water in under the roof. It's rotting the whole timber structure underneath.
Right.
And it might take 2 or 3 years before you notice it, but
it'll start.
It will start. So what we do is we manually scrape the moss down with a long extension pole from the gutter, clean out your gutters, and then spray a moss and algae treatment on it afterwards. Comes out just as clean as power washing it.
I've seen some of the photos already on your Facebook.
Now, it might take maybe a week or 2 for the treatment to kind of fully develop in that, but you can't power wash a roof. It's just that plain and simple. The soft washing is removing all them kind of algae stains on your walls. Same again, we don't power wash them, spray a treatment on it, kills the moss and the algae at the root, removes all the stains, safer than, blasting away at your plaster and your paint. And then your usual, just your power washing, driveways, paths.
Yeah.
We usually power wash fascia and soffit as well, and things like that. So luckily they keep me very busy.
Yeah.
It's hard work now.
Oh no, I can imagine.
It's not easy.
Yeah, and depending on the day, I suppose, if it's cold out, or
stop.
you have to be up there regardless, as you said.
Now if it's icy, or if I think that it's not safe at all, more importantly, the fellow working for me.
Yeah,
he's more a priority for safety for me than myself, which probably isn't a good thing, but that's the way it has to be. I'll call it off. I won't have any chance of risking him doing anything that he shouldn't be doing, or anything like that. I remember we were working there in November in Carrick, and the guy needed the house done. It was minuses in the morning, 4 or 5 degrees in the day, trying to clean out the gutters, and the gutters were frozen, just ice the whole way across. And they're trying to break it to take stuff out of it, and I just said,
yeah,
you can't be doing this.
No. And Reece, if, kind of a weird question, but if you had to hire anyone in the world, famous or not, to help you run Super Soft Wash, who would that be and why? Anyone. Celebrity, non-celebrity. I'm probably thinking I know already, but...
At the moment, I've started reading Russell Brunson books.
Okay, yeah.
And it's not about the work, in fairness. It's more about getting the work. The more work I have, I can hire people to do that work.
Right.
Once you get the work in, the hardest part is actually getting the jobs, doing the marketing and doing the advertising to get the work. We have our process now of doing the job. So it's obviously just about scaling that to more vans, more poles, more ladders.
Yes, yeah.
So I suppose, as much as I'd like to think I'm a good marketer, which I'm not nowhere near there yet at all, someone like Russell Brunson, who's been around and done a lot of work for service businesses.
I just thought, because you said Alex Hormozy earlier on, I just thought that's who you were going to say. But I wanted to ask that question because it's an interesting...
Well, do you know what? It's something I've noticed. Hormozy's been around now, probably 2 years. He's blown up the whole YouTube, and
he's been massive for the past 2 years.
For the past 2 years.
He was around forever.
Since 2016 or 14 when he started his
gym launch.
Gym launch, yes. But as I'm reading the Russell Brunson books,
.com
secrets and all that, it's the exact same
playbook.
Basics, or the exact same playbook. And he's saying it 10 years before Hormozy ever came out and said it,
Yeah, but that's what happens, you see. It's very hard, as we know, to reinvent something. Usually someone will come out, whether it's Hormozy or whoever comes along, and they'll put their kind of
twist
spin
on it.
But the core fundamentals, as we know, stay the same, because
cold outreach, warm outreach,
sales is sales. It doesn't matter. It's just techniques and little tweaks on it. But I agree. There'll be someone else after Hormozy that comes along that blows up, and they'll be repeating Hormozy's kind of stuff in a way, and it all stems back to.
I think the main thing about Hormozy is he simplifies it.
Yeah,
he doesn't. When people try and teach you things, and they might try and make it sound overcomplicated to give themselves a bit of a boost.
Have you read any of his books?
I have. I read the 2 of them.
$100 Million Offers and
Leads and Offers. Yeah,
very good.
Very good books. Anyone could read it. You give
the cartoon drawings.
Yeah, you could give it to a 10-year-old, and the 10-year-old would get the basis of it.
And I suppose that's one of his kind of unique selling points, is that he is able to distill complex stuff down to really basic stuff that, as you said, anyone can understand. So that's one of his kind of traits.
But that's kind of the main thing of teaching. If you the only way you really know, I remember hearing this before, the only way you really know if you know something well is if you could teach it to a child.
Yes.
If you fully understand something, you could teach it to a child.
Yeah.
And if not, you don't really know it as well as you like to let on you do anyway.
Yeah.
So that's where, in fairness, if I was to give anyone, I'd start you off with Hormozy if someone was going to get into marketing, in fairness.
Yeah.
Then obviously branch off from that, maybe read a bit of Russell Brunson and get into your bit of psychology then.
Yeah. Interesting. So let's click into social media, because you touched on it there earlier.
Yeah.
The effects of social media on your generation.
It's crazy.
So you were born in what year? 2000
2001. So I'd
Right.
say just after the .com bubble, as they say.
Yeah. Now you would then, like, Facebook really came about in
7, 8.
2009. Yeah, 7, 8, 9. But you would have still been. You would have remembered a bit of what life was like prior to
Oh, yeah.
every.
Like, there was no phones, or no one had a phone till you were 12 or 13 when I was growing up anyway. It's not like now where, kids have tablets and iPads and phones when they're 5 and 6. And I think the most advanced technology we had at the time was the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
And that's what I got when I would say 12. And that's as far as being glued to a screen as I was playing FIFA from a young age of, through my Abbey Community College years, as we'd say. But social media, it's a blessing and a curse. It's...
Give us the blessings.
The blessings are obviously what we touched on earlier. You can kind of family, you can keep in contact with anyone, find anyone, it's like some marketing for businesses, websites. Like, even for businesses now, anyone can really, if they learn the right things, anyone can start a business and succeed in it. Because, back in the day, it was all about word of mouth and actually getting, like, if you were to start a small business in the town of Boyle, and for the likes of me who's getting jobs in Galway, that would never have happened.
No, it wouldn't actually. No,
it would never have happened. Mayo or not, like, that's the power of social media, that you can run these ads, and the content of it, like the likes of, I am completely against the likes of TikTok and Instagram. I don't have them. I
don't
did
have TikTok anyway, no.
But see, you kind of have a bit of a brand where you have to be posting on it. You have to be kind of in the loop of it.
But I still haven't gone onto it, just as a case, because it's bad enough having a Facebook and all that sort of stuff. And I can see the burnout already, like trying to cross promote on stuff, and then you have to do short form content for this, and it's like, but it is important. I know TikTok is a huge part of people's businesses.
Yeah, and I don't use it too much, in fairness, just because I like to say it's not my real target audience, in fairness. Which it probably is. Probably just a bit of ignorance on my behalf. But I don't know. I've started looking into dopamine a lot the last while, The
effects of dopamine
on your brain.
The doom scrolling.
The doom scrolling, it's the reward receptor in your brain. And you wake up in the morning and you're just scrolling while you're lying in your bed, and you're just getting dopamine after dopamine after dopamine after dopamine after dopamine. And I don't think the human brain has evolved for that yet. Like, less than 100 years ago, there was none of that. You got your dopamine from maybe being in the pub on the weekend and hearing someone sing, and the spike you'd get from hearing someone sing in dopamine back then compared to now was probably 10%, because you're so, like, overindulged by it, by everything now.
Yeah, would it be like that we're getting too desensitized? Too desensitized. So we need more and more to get that hit.
Yeah. It's like a drug. It's like alcohol. It's just more and more, and the thing about dopamine is it's the motivator. It's what motivates. It's a reward receptor. So, we'll say a couple of hundreds of years ago, when you would have had to go and hunt for food, and you would have been out for maybe a day, could have been 2 days, and then you finally get your animal, you bring it back to your family, and you would have got your dopamine released then.
Yeah.
Where now you're getting it so instant and so constant, and people wonder why they're demotivated or feeling anxious. And I genuinely put it all down to that. Like, if I was to wake up in the morning and doom scroll on my phone for the first hour, my mind would be up my ass.
Yeah.
Procrastination, I wouldn't actually be able to fully function.
You're setting yourself up in a kind of almost a negative state of mind if you're doing first thing.
You're getting influenced by things that are out of your control, like whatever. And then, like, when I was learning about whatever, homeostasis is what they call it. It's kind of the neutral.
Yeah.
Everyone's brain wants to be
in a neutral state. For as long as possible.
For as long as possible. That's where we work our best. That's where you get your most clarity. And when you're just getting dopamine surges that are just shooting you up, and then obviously your brain is trying to neutralize it back, so it has to drop it off a bit and try and balance itself out. It's not natural, and that's why I think people are so anxious and so. Obviously, depression is a bigger thing to step into. You don't want to don't want to go down that path of things. But
And then have you seen it maybe in your own friend circle or wider? How do you feel it negatively impacting? Like what I really saw, and everyone saw this obviously back in the day when social media was really becoming a big thing, and you see it now all the time, and you see a group of 5 or 6 people, they're sitting down in a coffee shop and they're all on their phones.
Glued to their phones,
they're all texting someone else or messaging someone else that isn't there. Now, if that person was there, they'd be texting someone else that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand that thing, because at the end of the day, again, we're a different generation, but I couldn't understand why, if you're sitting down with a group of friends.
It's because you're constantly in contact with them. You're constantly, like, if you have a close group of friends, we'll say it's 5 friends, you are in contact with that 5 friends every day. Whether it's through Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, sending each other, things you've seen here, or messaging each other, something that just happened, you're constantly, so there's not like when you see them, it's not like how it would have been, back in your day where, you would have had stories. Oh,
yeah,
should have seen this week, or what happened this week, or everyone already knows everything that's going on. Because there's a lot of people that like to literally put their whole life up on Facebook and Instagram and let people know what they're doing 24/7. And that's also not a good thing either, because you're kind of just constantly looking for, validation.
And also then there's this thing of trying to keep up with the Kardashians.
Yeah, keeping up with the Joneses or whatever.
Someone gets something and you see that on there, is like, oh, I need to get that too. And it breeds this kind of whole notion of keeping up.
Like, everyone has different ideas of what success is. It could be different to one person to the next person. And then when you're seeing people online that are doing well, and you think, oh, maybe that's what I should be doing, or that's how I should be living, and I just don't think it's good for you, in fairness. It's setting unrealistic, expectations of yourself. Everyone does their own thing at their own time.
Yes, and everyone, exactly. And I can see why and how people get into that kind of trap and they feel like that. It can be a hard thing to maybe click out of. But if you're aware of that, as you are, you're not going to be as susceptible, to those emotions.
That's what I think the main thing is now in these generations growing up. Awareness. Being actually, like, in the moment, I guess, is the best way of putting it. Everyone's not really in the moment anymore. They're in their phones or thinking about something else. They're not actually here.
Yeah.
They're kind of lost in technology, or it's a hard thing. And one thing I will speak on, and it's kind of advice for people, I guess, is something I'm very, very pro on, is meditation.
Really? Okay.
And see, a lot of people wouldn't have thought of me to come out with a statement like this, but
no, but I wouldn't have said no. But I certainly I'm very receptive to that idea. I
think it's one of the best things you can possibly do, because I always say this, commodities. People talk about gold, oil. The rarest commodity I've ever seen in this world so far is peace.
Yeah, true.
So taking a moment, instead of scrolling on your phone and seeing what every Tom, Dick and Harry in the country is doing, sit down for 10 minutes, set a timer on your phone, throw the phone away and wait for the alarm to go off, and sit there and just try and stay calm. Well, not calm, but
no stimulus.
No stimulus. Just you, yourself, your mind. All I try and do is concentrate on breathing in through my nose,
Yeah.
But your mind will race.
Let natural thoughts, because I think a lot of misconceptions about meditation is that you have to get into this Zen-like state, and then you're fighting, why aren't I feeling this? Whereas you said, just put the phone away, sit in a room with a chair, no external stimuli, and just let your thoughts for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I just sit down, legs crossed over. I kind of look like Buddha when I'm doing it. I'm far from Buddha. But, like, in that sense, as you were saying, anything that's kind of affecting you or annoying you that you wouldn't really have realised, if you try and sit down for 10 minutes and try and not think of anything and just concentrate on your breathing, whatever is annoying you or affecting you from maybe the day beforehand or things coming up, it'll come rushing in and out of your mind. And at least then you can kind of process and go, oh, maybe that's what's triggering me. And then, obviously, the power of being able to realise that your brain is trying to bring you somewhere else. Realise that it's trying to run off and bring yourself back to, obviously, the breath coming through your nose. It's for the likes of anxiety, clarity, things like that. I think it's amazing, Because one way I always compare it to is prayer and religion. Like, that's probably the oldest practice in the world is, prayer and religion. And what is prayer and religion? It's taking the time to sit down and be by yourself. Just taking a moment to let all the distractions go away. And now they obviously speak to their God or whatever it is at the time, but mostly you're really and truly speaking to yourself.
It's an internal dialogue, really.
And I highly recommend it to everyone. I'll fight the case till the day I die about it. It's genuinely.
That's great. It's you've seen a positive impact.
But see, the thing is, the one thing I will say to people is, because we're so getting such bursts of dopamine from all these things, like, it's not going to hit you. Like it's not going to be like, oh my God, I'm so calm today. That must have been from meditating yesterday. It's a gradual kind of thing that it's just clarity. For the likes of me who's trying to run a business and trying to keep on top of 120 different things, like calling this person marketing here, or getting to this job, or making sure I have the right materials there. The calmness that I get from that morning of meditation helps me throughout the day. I wouldn't get too stressed out about things. I feel stressed, but I don't let the stress affect me.
Yeah, and that's probably the meditation.
And I do think it is.
Keeping that Zen-like state.
Just keeping you in control of your mind. And your mind's the most powerful thing we have.
Absolutely.
100%.
And we neglect that as well. We don't focus on it, and we don't give it the attention it needs to just be calm.
Yeah.
Because the stimuli that we're getting all around
constantly
is exactly. It's bombardment at the highest level, and it's getting worse and worse.
And it's going to get worse.
And it's going to get worse. Like we touched on just before you sat down, the AI aspect of things.
Yeah.
You can even see that where that's going.
It probably will be another 5-10 years before we drastically see.
I think 5 years.
Yeah.
I think 5 years, Reece, is where we're going to see the artificial super intelligence really.
I seen NVIDIA, they came out with a supercomputer there not that long ago. Was it last week?
NVIDIA?
Yes. Yeah, they come out with a supercomputer. Now, I'm definitely not technologically advanced to know what that is. Or
China also came out with one a couple of weeks called DeepSeek.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah, which is like a big competitor, but it's China, and people are saying, it's going to have a Trojan horse and all this. The thing we have to look at, the bigger picture, the macro aspect of this is that the internet isn't going anywhere. We know that.
Yeah.
Now AI is here 2 years. It is not going anywhere. And the day is going to come pretty soon. There's a thing called AI agents.
Yeah.
Which anyone that doesn't know, these are basically bots that will go out and do everything you need to do.
Like little servants.
Online.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have if Elon Musk gets his way, we're going to have the physical form of humanoid robots doing stuff like that. But the online
it's a mad concept to think of, isn't it?
It's crazy. It really is. And if you're not in the space of keeping up to date with that, you'd probably think, what the hell is this? But it's already here.
It's coming, yeah.
And it's already here on a small scale, but it's going to get to the stage where you'll have an AI agent. You'll have your own personal AI super intelligent agent online that you can say, go out and do this for me, and it will go and do that. Yeah. And it will pay other AI agents to do the work for it so that it can super kind of do everything. And it's all stemmed from your kind of input to that AI agent. It's phenomenal. It's crazy.
It's madness.
But this is what, as people say, you can ride the wave and invest in your own demise, or you can be left behind. And obviously, in my space anyway, I have to ride that wave because that space is going to be moving so fast.
Keep up or you get left behind.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, if you could have a billboard on the Crescent there in Boyle, right, and then with the whole thing of maybe giving the younger generation that's coming through a message that you could put on that billboard, and the billboard was going to stay there for a couple of weeks, and you had one message you could put on that billboard, Reece, what would it be as a means to kind of advise to a younger generation?
I suppose one thing that I always remember, it's a quote. It's now, don't be ignorant with this quote, but it's, don't take advice of people who aren't where you want to be in life. So, if you want to be a doctor, don't be taking advices off your local mechanic on what to do with your life. Or If you want to be in business, whatever that business is, find someone who is an expert in that area. And there's plenty of them out there now with YouTube and, as we were saying, social media. That's one of the positives of I suppose, social media. You can find these people and they are offering free information. Listen to people who are where you want to be.
Yeah,
take advice off them. If I was to give one bit of advice, that would be what it is.
I think Robert Kiyosaki said something like that as well.
That's probably where I got it from. I used to read a few of his books.
He always says, like, would you go to the doctor if you had a toothache?
Yeah.
No, you go to the dentist. So, and I think that's kind of where that maybe originated from somewhere.
So,
but it's a very powerful one because it does do exactly what you said.
Yeah,
just take advice from people that are in the area.
But again, don't be ignorant. But listen to people that are older than you that have been around. Of
course, well, there's a bit of life knowledge there as well. That's different. That is different. But it's
in a profession sense of things.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Looking forward then to the next few years, Reece, 5-10 years from now, any plans? I know you were saying you'll hopefully plan the to kind of expand the business and that, and I'm sure that will go fine. Where do you see yourself maybe 10, 20 years from now? Are you set in stone on Boyle this is your roots, or would you like to maybe expand the wings further afield somewhere else?
I have I'm definitely a dreamer anyway. So the aspirations are high. I couldn't really. I could if I have it obviously written down. I like to believe in all that stuff, writing down your goals, and so they're set in stone. I see myself being successful if I'm trying not to be too nice about it. Obviously, venturing into, first of all, making the money and then having the money work for you, as they say.
Yeah.
I'll be in and out of Boyle. I'll never leave. It's my hometown. I always have massive respect for Boyle. It's made me into the person who I am. Good times, bad times. It's all character building. But I'll be around the world too.
Yeah.
It's first I have to make the money and then,
of course,
look for that passive income that gives me the freedom to travel the world.
Yeah.
That is the main goal, I suppose, for myself, is passive income. And for people that don't know what that is, it's a constant stream of money that comes in that you don't really have to do too much for, whether it's dividends, rental income, business that doesn't require a lot of, work, we'll say, has a system in place that kind of runs it by itself, which AI will help a lot in the future. So yeah, look, I like to take things as they come. You get challenges put in front of you, so I can't say for exact what I'll be doing, but I just know that I'll continue to put the foot down and try forward no matter what.
That's great. And then just to finish off, Reece, what's the one thing you love about Boyle the most?
The people. It's a very tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody, which can be good and bad things for storytelling as the town goes. But everybody is lovely when you meet them on the streets. There's no badness out of 99% of the people in the town. I like to believe anyway. I have massive respect for everyone in the town. There's people that have been places where I want to be in, and so on and so forth, and others that haven't, but just the circumstances they grew up in that lead to that. So
that's a great way to finish. You're very, as I said to you before, you're a very inspiring young man, and I wish you all the success in the future. And thanks very much for coming on. And
one question for you, Carlo.
Me, yeah.
When are you and Florence going to switch the seats around and get interviewed yourself, I suppose?
On this?
On this, yeah.
Well,
when are the roles going to reverse and I sit here and go, Carlo, what was life like growing up in the 80s and 90s in Boyle?
No plans at the moment, because there's plenty of other people we have to get on at first. But if the time ever comes, it'll be an interesting thing to add our little. But I've certainly have anyway. I've added up my own little bits of tidbits here and there through interviewing the likes of yourself and all the other guests. So I've kind of gotten my little pointers out there. If everyone was to go back and listen to episodes, they'd hear my little take on things. But if that day ever comes, great. It'd be nice to have my own little thing on it. But I'm more concerned about you and everyone else, because, as I always say, stories need to be documented.
Yeah.
With the technology, all this, we should be doing more with it. So that's where it is at the moment. So but yeah.
A little curveball there for you.
I was like, what are you going to ask? But listen, thanks very much, Reece. I really
Carlo,
enjoyed
thank
the
you.
conversation.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.